Why do you have to be so cruel? What did I ever do to deserve this?
I wasn't trying.
You're lying awake next to the person you love, yet you've never felt more completely alone. You're exhausted. You make the plans, you start the difficult conversations, and you find yourself constantly apologizing for arguments you didn't even start.
I know you're busy, but
You
this
keep
is
telling
important.
yourself it's just
I
a
feel like we
rough
haven't really
patch.
talked lately.
But there is a
Please, can we
very
just talk for a
specific
minute?
psychological threshold
Please
where a
don't
rough
shut me
patch
out.
officially
I know
decays
I
into a
messed up,
toxic
but we
one-sided
have to
relationship,
talk about this.
and you probably crossed it months ago without even realizing it. If you're emotionally starved and constantly questioning your own worth, your partner is actively
I know
dropping
you're tired,
subtle
but I was
behavioral
really
clues
looking
that
forward
prove
to
they have
this.
completely
Can you just
checked
look at
out.
me for a second?
We are breaking
I miss
down the
talking to
undeniable
you.
signs that you are the only one trying.
Why
By the
am
end,
I
you will know
not
exactly whether
enough?
this is an imbalance you can fix, or if it's finally time to walk away. But brace yourself, because sign number 4 is the exact reason you've been feeling so paralyzed to leave.
Guys, please calm down. We can talk about this.
Talk? He ruined everything. I am done listening to him.
It's complicated. Part of me wants to believe him, but the way he behaved last night, I can't keep doing this if you won't meet me halfway. It feels like I'm talking to a ghost. How can you just sit there? Are you even listening to me? I'm falling apart here and you don't...
Let's talk about the invisible heavy lifting. In psychology, it's known as overfunctioning. And if you're watching
Please calm
this,
down.
you're
We can talk
likely
about
the
this.
emotional
Talk? He ruined
architect of your
everything. I
entire
am done listening
relationship.
to him. Look,
You
I don't
manage the
care what you think.
moods, you mediate the conflicts, and you desperately try to keep the spark alive. If you don't text first, the screen stays dark. If you don't suggest weekend plans, the days just evaporate into
Were
nothing.
you busy this weekend?
You've become the emotional
I was
shock
thinking
absorber,
maybe we could
taking
finally check out
every
that new cafe on
sigh,
Sunday.
every silence,
About
and
this
every
weekend.
cancelled
Are you
plan,
free on Saturday?
twisting yourself
We
into
could finally check out
knots
that
to
new
somehow
cafe.
make it okay. And the worst part, the excuses you make for them. You tell your friends and yourself they're just really stressed with work right now, or they've just had a lot on their plate. But let's be brutally honest.
Jake has been
A
under
tired
lot of
partner
pressure
still
lately.
reaches for
That
your
doesn't
hand in the
excuse him, I
dark.
know, but
A
you have to
stressed
understand the
partner still
context.
wants you in their
It's
corner.
complicated. Part of me wants to believe
What
him,
you're
but the way he
experiencing isn't a
behaved last
temporary
night, I
phase of
just can't
exhaustion.
rationalize it anymore.
It is active emotional withdrawal. You're essentially dating a ghost, pouring your empathy and energy into a bottomless void, praying that if you just give a little bit more, they'll suddenly snap back into the person they were in the beginning. You're starving for the bare minimum, convincing yourself it's a feast when they finally
keep
throw
doing
you a
this if you won't
single
meet me
crumb of
halfway.
affection.
It feels
You
like I'm talking
probably
to a
think the
ghost.
solution is to just communicate better, love harder, and be more patient. But here is the terrifying psychological truth that flips everything you know about fixing a failing romance. Your relentless effort isn't saving the
How can you just sit
relationship,
there?
it's
Are you even
actually the
listening to me?
exact thing
I'm falling
destroying
apart
it.
here and you don't care.
By overfunctioning, you haven't just tolerated their absence. You have unknowingly given them a free pass to check out completely, creating an environment where your own desperation is the only thing keeping the illusion of the relationship alive. Let's break down exactly how this toxic dynamic operates. Sign number 1 is the illusion of potential. You aren't actually in love with who they are right now. You're deeply attached to who they could be. They drop hints about future trips, moving in together, or finally settling down. That keeps you anchored. But watch their feet, not their mouth. The plans
that
never
still
actually
work for you?
materialize. They sell you a
Gotta
future
run.
dream so they don't have to put in the actual work today. But empty promises are just the surface. What happens when you finally call them out?
I can't pretend
That brings us to
anymore,
sign
Jake.
number 2.
I know you're
The
struggling, but
conflict
this is hurting
flip.
us both, and I
You hit
need
your
you
breaking
to admit
point.
what happened
You sit them
tonight.
down, completely exhausted, ready to demand mutual effort. But somehow within 10 minutes of
wasn't trying
talking,
to
you
be
are the one
cruel.
apologizing.
I guess I didn't think about
They
how you
masterfully
felt.
play the victim.
You were
They insist
right.
you're being too
I'm
demanding,
sorry.
too sensitive, or suffocating them. You walk away questioning your own reality,
know.
resolving to just be a little more understanding. It's a brilliant psychological defense mechanism to dodge accountability entirely. Yet, dodging blame is nothing compared to how they subtly train you to expect less.
Doesn't that sound nice?
Enter sign number 3,
Yeah.
Or we could just order
weaponized
a pizza
incompetence.
instead.
When they actually
I thought I
try,
had it this
they do
time.
it so poorly that you eventually just say, never mind, I'll
It's
do it
fine.
myself.
Go sit down. I'll
Whether
fix
it's
it.
planning a simple date night or initiating a serious conversation, they act completely clueless. You mistake their strategic laziness for a personality quirk. You tell yourself they just aren't good at emotions. Trust me, they are. They just know that if they fail consistently enough, you will eventually
Please,
stop
can we
asking.
talk about
And this
this?
deliberate exhaustion
like
sets
you're
the
not even
stage for the most
listening to me.
paralyzing trap of all. Here is sign number 4,
Never
the
mind.
exact reason you cannot bring yourself to leave. In psychology, it's called intermittent reinforcement. It creates the exact same brain chemistry as a gambling addiction. Just as you are totally drained, absolutely ready to pack your bags and walk away, they do something incredible. They plan a perfect evening. They send a wildly affectionate text out of nowhere. They give you a flawless glimpse of the person you originally fell in love with. Your brain gets a massive hit of dopamine. You immediately think, see, they do care. We're finally turning a corner. But you aren't turning a corner. You're just being reset.
It feels like we
That
finally
sudden
found
burst
our
of
way back.
affection isn't an emotional awakening. It is a calculated breadcrumb. They subconsciously sense you pulling away and they panic. But they aren't terrified of losing
Why
you.
are you
They are
shutting me
terrified of
out
losing
again?
the convenience of what you do for
I know
them.
it's hard.
They give you the
but we
absolute
have
bare
to face
minimum
this
just to
together.
reset your tolerance for their neglect. It restarts the clock. Once you feel secure again, the withdrawal instantly resumes. You're trapped in a violent loop of emotional starvation and random scraps. Now, you have to face the darkest truth about this cycle. So how do you finally break this cycle? How do you know, definitively, whether to stay and fight or if it is finally time to walk away? You do the one thing you have been terrified to do since this whole dynamic started. You drop the rope, you stop pulling, you stop planning the weekends, you stop double texting to check in, and you stop buffering their bad moods. You completely cease all of your overfunctioning, not as a manipulation tactic to make them jealous, and not out of spite, but as a genuine, undeniable psychological litmus test. When you stop providing the emotional life support, one of two things will happen. A partner who is genuinely just stuck in a
It's so
rough
good to
patch will
finally
immediately
catch
feel
up.
the shift. They will recognize the
know,
gap,
it's been
step
too
up and
long.
ask, "Hey, what's
We should
going
do
on?
this more often.
How can I fix this?" They will actively try to close the distance because they value your presence. But a partner who has been using you for convenience, they will just let the relationship flatline. The silence will become absolutely deafening. They won't reach out, they won't make plans, and they will likely just blame you for the sudden distance. And that agonizing silence is your answer. That is the definitive closure you've been desperately begging for. You cannot love someone into loving you back. You cannot carry a two-person load on one set of shoulders and expect it to miraculously look like a partnership. It is time to grieve the person you thought they were and accept the brutal reality of who they are actively choosing to be right now. Letting go is going to hurt, but nothing will ever hurt as much as holding on to someone who is perfectly comfortable, watching you drown in your own effort. Walking away isn't failing. It is the moment you stop settling for breadcrumbs, step out of the void, and finally redirect all of that relentless, beautiful love back into the one person who actually deserves it, yourself.
Why are you shutting me out again? I know it's hard, but we have to face this.
Hey, don't cry. It's okay.
I'm just so happy. This is
Rebuilding that baseline of self-worth after months of emotional starvation is the hardest step you will ever take, and you do
Don't worry,
not
Emily.
have to navigate
Whatever
that
happens,
psychological
I'm here to
minefield
support you.
alone.
We'll figure this
If
out
this
together,
video
I promise.
finally gave you the unspoken
okay to
clarity
feel
you've been
overwhelmed
desperately
sometimes.
searching
Your
for and you are
feelings are
truly
valid,
ready to
and you
stop
are not
falling
alone
for the
in this
illusion of
experience.
potential, hit the subscribe button right now. We are actively exposing these hidden toxic dynamics and giving you the exact psychological tools you need to protect your peace and demand the love you actually deserve. You've spent enough time breaking your own heart just to keep someone else comfortable. Make the deliberate choice to invest in your own healing today. Subscribe and let's take your power back together.
It's okay to feel overwhelmed sometimes. Your feelings are valid, and you are not alone in the